I love me a good sales movie. In this video, I'm going to break down my personal favorite sales movies of all time, okay? And before you react to it when this video is wrapped up, just understand that this is just my personal favorite list of sales movies. I'm not saying that any that I left off are not great movies. It's just my personal preference and my list of my favorites. So without further ado, let's get in. This video is brought to you by none other than Hire Heroes, you guys. Hire Heroes is your one-stop shop when it comes to virtual staffing and making sure that you have qualified talent with your business. One thing that I love about Hire Heroes, you guys, is they've actually gone through the process already of vetting and making sure that your staff member is well trained to best fit your needs. Whether you need help with social media work, posting things on your accounts, responding to people that send messages to your social media accounts, whether you need help with data entry or a multitude of other things that they're qualified to do, Hire Heroes has got you covered. If you're having trouble finding quality talent and number two, affording to be able to run payroll for that talent, Hire Heroes has got you covered with an affordable alternative to have a virtual assistant working for your business. There's a link down in the description of this video to where you can learn more about getting your own VA through Hire Heroes. I certainly recommend it. They're what we use in our business for all of our virtual assistant needs, and you will want to make sure that you check them out today. A great sales movie is, for some people, just a movie, right, that happens to be about sales. For me, I've watched every movie on this list time and time and time again. I absolutely love a good sales movie, a movie about entrepreneurship. Before I kind of jump into my list, I'm going to give you some honorable mentions that really aren't actually sales movies, but they're entrepreneurship movies, they're business building movies, and they're some of my personal favorites. The first one that would probably be my number 4, and I struggled not putting it in the top 3, would be The Founder, the movie that was essentially made based on the life of Ray Kroc, who really propelled the McDonald's organization to prominence, okay? If you've never seen this movie, this is such a freaking awesome movie, okay? It is such an engaging movie. It's such an interesting movie, and it doesn't hide any of the good, bad, and ugly about the story, okay? The story really is that there's 2 brothers in San Bernardino, California that have this incredible burger stand, and it really is, for all intents and purposes, one active, thriving location. Maybe they have a couple franchises, but it's not performing to its best potential. Now, back in those days when this actually happened, this story takes place, I can't remember if it's the 60s, the 70s, it's somewhere in that time frame. And back then, drive-thrus were really slow, inefficient. They would bring things to your car like, trays with like silverware and plates and, just all kinds of weird stuff. Like compared to today, it just seems like outrageous, right? They were the first ones that could get you a burger like that. They were the first ones that didn't use dishes. They used completely like, paper wrap with the burgers that we know and, probably are very familiar with today because every fast food place uses it. They use, paper everything, disposable everything, so nothing needed to be returned. Everything was quick. It was cost effective. It was good. It was just a system, right? It was a machine and a system that was highly profitable, very popular. Ray Kroc sees this as this could be a nationwide phenomenon. The brothers think too small. They go into business together, put Ray Kroc in charge of developing this franchise infrastructure across the country. And then ultimately what he does is he seizes control of the business. Lawyers get involved, and it's such a great movie in general, but it really goes into the story of the nitty-gritty of kind of what happened. I love this movie. I've seen it countless times. The acting is great. The storyline is great. The pacing of the movie is great. And I put it in the category of sales movies because, man, if you watch this movie, the actor that plays Ray Kroc, you see the salesmanship every step of the way, right? Selling it to franchisees, selling it to investors, selling the McDonald's brothers on his vision, right? Like, this dude is a born salesperson, okay? So I love this movie. Absolutely fantastic. It's a movie that is an honorable mention. Another movie that's an honorable mention to me is there's been many movies made about Steve Jobs' life. I like them all. The one that I actually like the most, and kind of interesting because most people hate this movie and they favor other ones more, is the Jobs biopic with Ashton Kutcher as Steve Jobs. Primarily because he looked exactly like Steve Jobs in his younger days. Like if you look at the pictures of them side by side, it's unbelievable. It's like, Ashton Kutcher was a doppelganger of young Steve Jobs, okay? But I love this movie because it kind of goes, it really goes through the ugliness of the career of Steve Jobs. Now, none of these movies about famous business titans and moguls are 100% accurate. They're dramatized for Hollywood, but I love this movie all in all. I think it captures, I do think, from what I've read from people like Steve Wozniak, who is another co-founder of Apple with Steve, he kind of feels like they made Steve look like a superhero. And they kind of made it seem like he was a victim, when he was ostracized from Apple, and that he did nothing wrong, that they were bullying him, ganging up on him, that kind of stuff. But it does go into a lot of the shit with him, like, getting his girlfriend pregnant, not wanting anything to do with the kid, you know what I'm saying? Screaming at people, like just absolutely ruthlessly, like ripping into his employees, which he was known to do. There's a lot of stories about that back in the day, that he was just an asshole, not fun to work with. But I love that movie in particular. It always has a place in my heart. I've seen it many, many times. So those are my two honorable mentions. Now let's jump into my actual list. So number 3, I'm going to start with 3, and I'm going to count down to 3, 2, and 1. Okay, this is in order for me. Number 3 is The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. So Will Smith does a movie called The Pursuit of Happiness based on the story, the real life story of Chris Gardner. Chris Gardner was a stockbroker, a very successful stockbroker in California. And his story was incredible because he went from homeless to extremely successful stockbroker and really well-known person. And now he's a motivational speaker. He's become highly successful. And the story is based on a guy who's struggling to make it. He's hardworking, he's smart, he just can't seem to catch a break. His wife is a total piece of garbage, in my opinion. And now who knows if that was actually 100% a good representation of the truth of the story, because it's always going to be told to kind of feature the hero in the best light, right? But in the movie, if that is how it went down, the wife is horrible. The wife is like not supportive. She's critical. She walks out on him and has him take care of the kid all by himself, like garbage, this woman, okay? So, and at one point, he's sleeping in bathrooms every night. They just don't know exactly where they're going to be. He's writing checks that ultimately aren't going to be able to be cashed because they're just bad checks, just praying that he can make it through the night with his son. And they're staying in homeless shelters at one point in the movie. And all the while, he is going through a unpaid internship at Dean Witter, which is a large brokerage at the time, to essentially compete against a ton of people, like 20, 30, 40, 50 people. I can't remember the exact number, but I believe only one is selected for the job. So it's highly unlikely that he's going to be the guy. In addition to that, he has no structure in his personal life. He has nowhere that he's staying. He's staying somewhere different every night. He's probably not sleeping well. He has to leave earlier than everybody else to pick up his son from daycare. It is a mess. It's a nightmare of a situation to find yourself in. And he pushes through, works his ass off, grinds it out, and he gets the position. And they're going to be all right. Right, it's The Pursuit of Happiness is the movie. Will Smith is amazing in this movie. His son at the time, very, very young, is in the movie as his son, Chris Gardner's real son, Christopher. It's a heartwarming movie. It's a gut-wrenching movie. It makes you feel just the pain that they're going through and the struggle to really be successful. And this is probably one of the most extreme situations that you could ever think of, one of the most extreme instances of someone pulling themselves out of the gutter to be successful. I absolutely love this movie. If you've never seen it, I imagine most of you have, but if you've never seen it, it's a must-watch. It's a great movie. Number 2 on my list is The Wolf of Wall Street. The only reason why this movie is not number 1 on my list is it is so raunchy. Okay, so directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill. This movie has, just an absolute star-studded cast of characters. And I've seen this movie many, many times. It is as raunchy and dirty and just everything you can think of is in this movie. Sex, drugs, domestic violence, illegal acts taking place. Man, it's the cursing, language, criminal, money laundering. I mean, you name it. You name it. It's going to happen in this movie, right? It is exactly what you probably think of when you think of Wall Street movie. You know, like you think about Wall Street brokers and, you know, they're hopped up on cocaine, and, you know, this is kind of what Hollywood has kind of painted the picture of what Wall Street is. You know, it's like these stockbrokers in suits going to strip clubs, snorting cocaine, and, you know, just living this absolutely fast and extremely destructive lifestyle. And that's what this movie is all about. It's based on the life story of Jordan Belfort. Now, Jordan Belfort started a stock brokerage in the 90s called Stratton Oakmont. Now, Stratton Oakmont essentially was shut down by the government for fraud. Jordan Belfort went to prison for a certain amount of time, along with multiple other people in the firm, for fraud. And he was banned from being involved in the securities business for life because of it. He owes his victims upwards of $100 million that he has not repaid to this day, right? So it's based off of this incredibly controversial story. Leonardo DiCaprio is amazing in it, and just the overall sales portion of this movie, how it's built in, like they go real deep into the tactics that were used, what they're saying on the phone, their pronunciations, their tonalities, right? How they speak to people over the phone, how they kind of paint the picture in the mind of the person they're talking to and their prospective customer. Now, ultimately, it's a story of manipulation, abuse, fraud, illegal activities, screwing people over. That's what this story is about. Don't get it twisted. But it is such a great movie in terms of entertainment value, and there is a lot of great sales lessons you can learn in this movie. The thing that I always would want to encourage people to keep in mind is this movie, it's been criticized in the past of essentially glorifying and glamorizing using, you know, fast talking sales strategies and tips to rip people off and screw people over for your own benefit. You never want to do that. You never want to be that person. Sales, to me, is the way to allow you to open the door with a prospective customer. And if you can help them with your product or service, then great. You need that salesmanship to be able to show them that you can help them. But it should never be to hurt somebody, manipulate somebody, just absolutely screw somebody over. So the reason why it's not my number one is because it is really, like, the message can be portrayed as really, really destructive in my opinion, but it's a fantastic movie. It's not one you want to watch with the kids if you've never seen it before. Watch it with your spouse or by yourself or something like that, because it is as raunchy and dirty as can be. But I've seen it many, many times. It's incredibly entertaining, and it is a full-on, you know, dark side business movie. So number 2 for me was Wolf of Wall Street. Now, number 1 of my all-time personal favorite sales movies is without a doubt Glengarry Glen Ross. Okay, so this movie is an older movie compared to the other ones that we might have mentioned on the list so far. This movie came out in the 90s, and it's a movie about a small office of real estate salesmen, right? They're real estate agents trying to sell property, and they're put under the gun all the time by their employers and their managers to essentially make more sales, you know, hit quotas, that kind of thing, put under pressure. And they're all just these sleazy salesmen. They're just, you know, using phones without caller ID back in the day, you know, working direct mail postcards and everything like that. And they're all just full of shit when they call people. Like every time they call someone, they're all saying pretty much the same thing. Like, you know, I'm the president of the company. I'm only in town for 2 days and I have this opportunity to pitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just sleazy. But the movie begins, and there's some big time names in this movie too. You know, Kevin Spacey, Al Pacino, Alec Baldwin. And so the movie kind of kicks off early in the movie with one of the most iconic sales scenes of all time, where they have a sales meeting late into the night, in the evening pretty much, right? So Alec Baldwin comes in. He's the guy that's sent from downtown. And the famous line is he comes in and he's like, I'm here from Mitch and Murray. Mitch and Murray are the guys that own the firm, right? He's like, and I'm on a mission of mercy. Like, it's just such an iconic salesman scene. So he's standing in front of them, in front of a whiteboard, and he is sent down as like one of the most successful people in the industry, right? He comes down, he's making $1 million a year. He's wearing the Rolex, he's driving the nice car, he's wearing the, you know, slick suit. And he comes in and he basically just verbally assaults these people, these salesmen in the room, basically being like, you know, you have 1 week to get your sales up, get your shit together, or you're going to be fired. So there's the famous line where he goes, I understand you probably all know about this month's contest. First prize is a Cadillac. Second prize is a set of steak knives. Third prize is you're fired. So like, it's just this thing. And, he's just basically like calling them all losers, calling them all nothing. It is one of the best movie scenes ever. Alec Baldwin crushes it. He kills it in this movie. And it is such a great movie. Al Pacino is amazing in this movie. Like, he is this slick, smooth talking salesman, and he plays it so amazingly well. Like at the time, he's the top producer in the office, and just seeing him wheeling and dealing, and he's great. Everybody is great in this movie, in my opinion. It's a shorter movie. It's not as long as like a Wolf of Wall Street, but I love this movie. This is a movie I watch when I'm sick in bed. This is a movie I watch when I'm in a bad mood. It puts me in a better mood. I love this movie and everything else about it. So a lot of people have never seen Glenn Ross, especially the younger crowd, because it came out in the 90s. And ultimately, it's probably surprising to some of you that I've watched it, because I'm 31. It probably came out when I was a year old, or the year I was born, or maybe before I was even born. I'd have to look at the year it came out. But so it's not really my generation movie, but I love the movie so much. So my all-time favorite sales movie is Glenn Ross. Anyway, guys, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What are some movies that you feel like I left out? Comment your thoughts down below. Do you also agree with my list? Do you like these movies as much as I do? What are your favorite business sales movies of all time, and why? I want to have a dialogue with you. If you found this kind of video entertaining, if you like this type of content, the only way I'm going to know about it is if you smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. I am never going to know. And we base what kind of content we put out based on the reaction from you guys, the audience. So if you want to see more content like this, make sure to let us know by smashing the like button and commenting that down below that you want to see more like this. Subscribe. We put out information every single week to help you grow your business, and we don't ask for anything in return except for a little bit of your time. Without further ado, guys, thanks so much for watching. Here's to your success and your abundance. And if you haven't seen any of these movies, check them out. Thanks, guys.